Yes.
Yes. Very good.
Now we're gonna get a fancy steakhouse, so.
Hey, yeah. They bought the, what's her name's house?
Boyce.
Yeah,
Live streaming, Mackenzie?
Yep, we're live streaming now on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we got 1 minute and we'll start at 6 o'clock. It's 5:59. Good evening. First of all, before we start this meeting, I'd like to thank Kara and Mackenzie for putting on the Zoom meetings this year for the town of Fort Erie through this COVID crisis to let people process their applications for variance and consent applications this year. So I'd like to thank them for their well done job for this year and probably going through next year as much as we can go. So thank you, ladies, for putting on the Zoom meetings and helping the town and the applicants and everybody in the town and the committee members. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
I'd like to welcome you to the Town of Fort Erie Committee of Justice meeting of December 10th, 2020. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and I'll call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to introduce you to the committee members and staff. So the committee members are the following. Mackenzie CC, she's the planning intern and the meeting host who is doing the background technical duties. And Kara Rage is our secretary treasurer who will be recording minutes of tonight's meeting. Tonight's members are the following. Terry Moore, Ken Burton, and I'm Sam Strasol. I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. So those members of the public who will be participating electronically in the public meeting portion of this meeting tonight, you may wish to put your view on gallery view by clicking the top right corner from speaker view. I also ask that you're mindful of background noises for the duration of the meeting. Please also note that participating members of the public remain in the virtual waiting room via telephone or electronically until they're called upon during the public meeting. This is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act for the purpose of considering both minor variance consent applications. Members of the committee have provided with all written comments received by agencies and the public prior to this meeting. Committee members are asked to mute their microphones until you're asked to speak. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak and vote by raising your hand. The purpose of this meeting is to obtain input from residents relative to the application. Those participating online via Zoom will be asked to raise their virtual hand when they wish to speak. On a computer, you can do so by clicking on Participants in the bottom center of the screen, and then by clicking Raise Hand. On a mobile device, you can tap More in the bottom right and then tapping Raise Hand. You'll then be brought into the meeting by staff. You can then unmute yourself and start your video by using the buttons on your screen. If you're participating by phone and wish to raise your hand, press *9 and you'll be unmuted by staff. Next, we'll hear the applicant or agent, and then from those in support or opposition to the application are asked to ask questions. We ask that each attendee keep their comments to under 10 minutes to allow all attendees the opportunity to speak. Applicants attendees are advised they are free to leave the webinar once a decision is made on their application. Each application will proceed in the following order. The Secretary Treasurer to summarize purpose and effect of the application and comments received. The applicant then called upon to speak and make further comments if they have any. The committee members will ask questions of the applicant. The public will be asked to speak one at a time to state their full name and address for the record and any comments they have towards the application. The chair will close the application once all comments have been heard, and committee members will make a decision on the application approved, refused, or deferred, and state any conditions apply. Please address your comments and questions directly through the chair. Each application will be heard in order in which they appear on the agenda. The notice of decision will be provided to all applicants stating the outcome of the hearing and any conditions of approval if required. Please note that correspondence and comments received this evening are restricted to the matters of the Committee of Adjustment and Planning Act. In considering each application this evening, the Committee of Adjustment will have due regard for the provisions of Section 45 and Section 53 of the Ontario Planning Act of 1990 as amended. A 20-day appeal period exists for each application heard this evening. Final appeal dates are noted on the notice of the decision and are available by requesting a copy in writing. I'll begin by asking committee members present to have any conflicts of interest with respect to the application we heard this evening. Terry?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. And now I'll ask the Secretary Treasurer, notice this meeting was properly given in accordance with the provisions of the Ontario Planning Act.
Yes, it was.
And have you received any requests for adjournment or withdrawal respecting of tonight's applications?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you. And I'll now proceed with the first application tonight. And the first application would be consent file B24-4, and then minor variance file A3520 and A3620. The address is 124 Battery Street, and I'll ask the staff to bring the applicant to the webinar.
Sir?
Hello.
No?
Hi, are you able to hear us?
I am.
Great.
Is this a video, Mackenzie, or just gonna, I don't know.
Right now it's just audio, but looks like they're
Okay.
joining as
There we
well.
go.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and yourselves?
Good. So the address is 124 Battery Street. The applicant's 2495365 Ontario Inc. F. Pinguay, I think it's Pinguay. And the owner's Astrid Barada. And are you, and who are you now? Sorry.
I'm the purchaser
You're the purchaser?
Mhm.
And what's your
of
name?
that Fernando Pinga.
Oh, Fernando. Okay, Fernando.
Yeah.
And are you ready to proceed with tonight's application, Fernando?
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read all the correspondence. Once she's read the correspondence, you have the right to comment on the application, and then we go from there, okay? Thank you. Okay, Kara.
This consent application proposes the creation of a new lot for future development of a residential dwelling. The retained parcel, part 2 on the sketch, has an existing dwelling on it and will continue its residential use. The new parcel on the severance sketch and is proposed for future construction of a single detached dwelling. The R2 zoning requires a minimum of 17 meters of lot frontage with a corner lot and 15 meters of lot frontage for an interior lot and 510 square meters for lot area. Part 1 is deficient in lot frontage at 480.3 square meters and will require approval of a minor variance. Part 2 exceeds the minimum lot frontage and lot area required by R2 zoning, but will result in a deficient rear yard setback that will also require a minor variance. Approval of minor variance files A35 and A36 will be a condition of this consent application. The creation of an infill residential lot in the urban area is supported by provincial, regional, and town planning policy and is considered good planning. Staff note that 5% cash in lieu of parkland dedication is required for the creation of a new residential parcel. Planning staff have no objection to this consent application, subject to the following conditions: that minor variance files A35 and A36 are approved, that the shed on part 1 is removed as is indicated on the severance sketch, that payment of 5% cash in lieu of parkland dedication be paid, that this applicant provide a deposited reference plan, and that the final consent certificate fee is paid. Infrastructure had no objections to the application, with conditions that a $500 fee be paid to the town for one street tree, and that an overall lot grading plan for part 1 be submitted for review and approval by the town. Building department had no concerns or comments on the application. Manager of community planning stated also that the 5% cash in lieu should be paid, that the tree fee was due, and that there are several large trees located in close proximity to the west and south property lines. So a survey of all trees within 3 meters of the property lines will be required to determine ownership. If there are trees located on the adjacent property that overhang or will be impacted, a tree preservation plan is required. And that a reminder to the applicant that if any trees are to be removed within the municipal road allowance, that the town is notified. Fire Department had no comments. Bell Canada had no comments on the consent as well. That concludes the consent comments.
Okay, thank you, Kara. Fernando, did you have any comments on any correspondence that Kara just read?
No comments at all.
Okay. Do the committee members like to ask any questions? Ken?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any questions.
Terry, do you have any questions?
No, but I have a comment, if I
Yes.
could. I wonder if we should correct the description as we read Kara's report, that part one is deficient in lot area, not lot frontage. When you went down, part one is deficient in, and then it says lot frontage, that should read lot area, shouldn't it?
Kara, would you like to comment on that?
Unmute, there you go. That is correct. I will change that in the minutes as well.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Mr. Chair, would you also like to continue with the minor variance applications now, or would you like to make a decision first on this file?
Since we're already dealing with it, we'll do it right now, and then we can go right to the variance.
Perfect.
I have no other, sorry, Terry, do you have any other questions or no?
I don't know, that was all.
Okay, I have no questions. Mackenzie, can you look at the virtual room and see if anybody would like to speak for or against the application?
Sure. So at this time, I'd like to invite any of our public attendees to raise their virtual hand to indicate to us that they would like to speak. Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, I'll ask this public file to be closed. I'll ask the committee members to make their decision, their comments and decision, and then make the recommendation if it's for and the conditions. Thank you. Terry?
I'll be voting in favor, Mr. Chair. The lot exceeds the required frontage. The size is consistent with other lots in the area, and it's of sufficient size to accommodate a medium-sized house.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I also would be voting in favor of the consent land application, subject to the minor variances, of course, but the issue here is it does meet the planning staff approvals with, of course, the conditions that have been submitted by staff.
Okay, thank you. I'll be supporting the application. Fernando meets the official plan of further urban development. It passed the consent test application stated by the town, and the town supports it, so I'll be supporting the application. If someone wants to put the motion on the floor, and you can just put stated conditions, because there's about 7 or 8 of them, so someone can put the motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, based on the oral and written submissions tonight, I move that consent application B24 be approved with the conditions as required.
I'll
And do
second
I-
the motion.
Yep. All in favor? The motion is carried, Fernando, for the consent application of file B2420.
Thank you.
Receive written notice committee decision, and the decision becomes final so long as no appeals are received within the 20 days of the notice. So thanks for the consent, and now we'll do the variance application.
Okay, start. The purpose and effect.
What I illegally asked him if he's ready for the variance. Are you ready to proceed with the variance application, Fernando?
I am.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Kara.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I know you did the
It'd
consent.
be funny. Be funny if you said, no, not yet. Anyway.
Go ahead.
All right, let's start the report. The purpose and effect of application A3520 is to permit a decrease to the minimum lot area of the new proposed lot via consent file B2420. The Ontario Planning Act provides a minor variance must meet the following 4 tests to be considered minor and supportable. Is it minor in nature? The proposal to permit a decrease to the lot area to 480.3 square meters is minor. The surrounding neighborhood has a variety of lot sizes, and there are other parcels nearby with less than 510 square meters of area. The proposed lot area will be consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed lot area is at 6% reduction from the minimum requirement, and the proposed parcel meets the minimum lot frontage requirement of the R2 zoning. Staff are confident that the proposed lot will be adequately sized to accommodate the development of a future residential dwelling. Is the proposed variance desirable for the appropriate use and development of the land? The proposal to create an infill lot for residential development in the existing build-up area is appropriate and desirable for the area. The proposed lot will be sufficiently sized for future development of a residential dwelling. Does the proposal meet the intent of the zoning bylaw? The general intent of the minimum lot area regulations is to ensure that the new parcels are of adequate size to accommodate development and are consistent with other lot sizes in the area. This intent is maintained as a proposed lot will be sufficient size to develop an appropriately sized dwelling with space for servicing, amenity area, and parking. The proposed lot will also be similar in size to other lots in the area. Does the proposal meet the general intent of the secondary plan? The proposal to create new infill lot for future construction of a single detached dwelling is consistent with the residential low-density land use designation in the secondary plan. Limited vacant parcel infill is envisioned by the South End secondary plan for areas designated as residential low density, and it is noted that the new parcels can be expected to have more compact form. Based on the above comments, planning staff support the requested variance. File number A36. The purpose and effect of this application is to decrease the required rear yard setback for an existing dwelling on the retained parcel associated with the consent file B2420. Is the variance minor in nature? The proposal to decrease the rear yard setback to 4.81 meters is minor. The subject property is a corner lot and an adequate amount of amenity area is available in the northern rear yard and the western interior side yard. The interior side yard, which was defined as the rear yard prior to the severance application, functions as the dwelling's primary amenity space, and an existing covered patio is located there. There is sufficient depth to the lot to provide for amenity space in this yard. No impacts to surrounding properties are anticipated as a result of this variance, as the setback of the dwelling to the northern lot is an existing situation. Is the proposed variance considered desirable for the appropriate use and development of the land? Continued use of the remnant lot for residential purpose is appropriate and desirable. The use of interior and exterior side yards as amenity space is a common condition for dwellings on corner lots. Does the proposal meet the general intent of the zoning bylaw? The general intent of minimum rear yard setback regulations is to ensure that there's an adequate amount of amenity area for residents of a dwelling. This proposal meets this intent. Although the rear yard setback to the northern lot line is deficient, sufficient amenity space is provided in the interior side yard on the west side. The interior side yard, which was defined as the rear yard prior to the severance application, functions as a dwelling's primary amenity space. Does the proposal meet the general intent of the secondary plan? The South End secondary plan states the lands designated as low density residential shall be reserved for single detached, semi-detached, and duplex dwelling and uses accessory thereto. The plan also states that as the low density area is almost entirely built out, any addition of low density built form will likely come from a consent or limited vacant parcel infill. Alongside the application for consent, the variances required for this proposal will facilitate the creation of a new infill lot and will permit the construction of a new dwelling. This proposal meets the intent of the secondary plan. Based on the above comments, planning staff support the requested variance. Infrastructure had no further comments. The building department had no further comments. The manager of community planning had no further comments, and nor did the fire. That concludes staff comments on the applications before us.
Thanks, Kara. Fernando, would you like to comment on both applications? Do you have any comments?
No, I'm fine with the comments. No questions.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions? Terry? Kenny?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any questions.
The only question I have, Fernando, is what type of house or dwelling are you looking to plan in that parcel lot there?
About a 1,400 square foot, 2-bedroom bungalow,
Okay, that's the only question I have.
double car garage.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yep.
That's the only question I have. Mackenzie, can you look in the virtual room and see if anyone who likes to comment on the application or by phone?
So at this time, if anybody wishes to speak to this application, they're welcome to raise their virtual hand. Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, I'll ask that both files be closed and we will comment on one first, then we'll make the judgment and they'll go to the second one because they're both different in merit. So first is the file number A3520 is closed, and I'll ask committee members if they'd like to express their views. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would be voting in favor of the minor variance. I'm satisfied with the staff's report and agree with their comments with regards to satisfying the 4 tests for the minor variance.
And Terry?
I'll be voting in favor as well. Further to Ken's comments, it's consistent with the provincial policy statement regarding infill lots and residential intensification.
Thank you, and I'll be supporting the application. Do we have a motion on the floor? Ken, you want to put the motion on the floor?
Mr. Chair, I'll put a motion that we approve minor variance A3520. There are no conditions.
And do I have
I'll
a
second that,
seconder?
Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor? The motion is carried. Fernando, you'll see written notice the committee decision within
Thank you.
20 days of the notice. And now let's go to the second variance in this case, file number 83620. The file's closed. And Ken, would you like to comment on the application first?
Eh?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's 2 separate cases, so.
Yeah, no, I thought you said Terry, but then I heard something else. So anyway, Mr. Chair, I will be voting again in favor of minor variance A3620. In listening and reading the comments from the staff, it does meet the 4 tests. And as Terry was saying, it does meet the provincial standards for infill lots.
Okay, thank you. And Terry,
I'll be
same
voting in-
comments? Yeah. go
I'll
ahead.
be voting in favor for the same reasons.
And I'll be supporting the application. Ken, if you want to put the motion on the floor?
Mr. Chair, I'll put the motion on the floor that we approve minor variance A3620 for 124 Battery Street, no conditions.
Okay,
I'll
Have a
second that,
seconder?
Mr. Chair.
okay, all in favor? Okay, the motion is carried. Fernando, you receive a written notice of the committee decision. The decision becomes final so long no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thanks for attending tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our last application for tonight is file minor variance A3720, the address 826 Barker Avenue. The applicant is Michael Spurek. The owner is Michael Spurek and Kara Rogue Spurek. Are you there?
Hey, can
I
you
see
hear
a dog. I see a dog.
I'm trying to get my face on.
Ah,
Can you hear my voice?
I can hear your voice.
I can't hear your face. There you are.
Oh,
There
There
you
you
are.
are.
There we go. My dog, yeah. Yeah, she won't see
And
my dog.
Michael, are you ready to proceed with tonight's application?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll ask Kara to read the correspondence and then you can comment on the application if you'd like to, okay? Thank you.
The purpose and effect of this application is to permit a reduction in the rear yard setback to allow the construction of a 2-story addition to the existing dwelling. The proposed addition will be used as a garage on the lower level and living space in the upper level. The Ontario Planning Act provides that a minor variance must meet the following 4 tests to be considered minor and supportable. Is the variance minor in nature? The zoning bylaw requires a rear yard setback of 10 meters, whereas the proposed building addition will provide a rear yard setback of 7 meters. A variance of 3 meters is requested. The requested variance is minor in nature, as a rear yard setback of 7 meters will provide sufficient amenity area for the occupants of the dwelling and will also provide adequate separation between the dwelling on the subject property and future dwelling on the abutting northern property. Is the proposed variance considered desirable for the appropriate use and development of the land and buildings? Use of the property for residential development is appropriate and desirable. The general intent of the rear yard setback regulations is to ensure that there is adequate amount of amenity area on the parcel for residents of a dwelling and sufficient separation is provided between the dwellings. This proposal meets the intent as the applicant is proposing to provide a setback of 7 meters, which will provide adequate amenity area for the residents of the dwelling and will have no adverse impact to future dwellings on the abutting northerly property. Does it meet the official intent of the official plan? The rural residential land use designation permits the development of single detached dwellings. The proposed variance meets the intent of the official plan. Based on the above, planning staff support the requested variance. Infrastructure had no further comments. Building department had no further comments. Fire had no further comments. The region did provide extra comments to the applicant, which were provided to him earlier this week. They were in favor. They have no objection to the application, provided that the garage does not contain any bedrooms or plumbing fixtures, and the defects within the septic tank lids are corrected to the satisfaction of the department. Those are the conclusion, the conditions of the region, that those two things are dealt with. We'll have the applicant comment on those a little bit further. And as well, there were public comments from the neighbor at 820 Barker Avenue, who is in full support of the application. The lot beside him can never be built on and in no way will hurt the lot site. Please allow the young couple to increase their living space to accompany their family. It will be an improvement to the area and increase property values. If you have any further questions, we can contact him. That concludes the comments on the file.
Thanks, Kara. Michael, would you like to comment on any of the correspondence that Kara's just read from the agencies?
Yeah, the region mentioned that my septic was need to get redone, which I know. I did put new lids on. I did notify them that I did that. And as for the living space that we're going to be putting up above the garage, like they said, there would be no bedrooms, no bathrooms, no nothing. It would just be an open space for the family so they can have other room to do stuff. It is a small house. There is 5 of us in there, so it's literally just an extra room for privacy and stuff.
Okay.
Other than that, not really.
Thank you. Do the committee members have any questions, Terry or Ken?
I have no questions.
Neither do I, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. Mackenzie, would you like to check the virtual room or anybody on the phone that would like to participate in the application?
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask this file be closed. I'll ask committee members to express their views. Terry?
I'll be voting in favor, Mr. Chair. This is kind of a technical variance. The fact that the property actually fronts on Barker, even though Ozark, because it's a smaller frontage or a smaller measurement, is considered the frontage. So there's huge amenity space from Ozark North. And that sliver of land to the north is never going to be built on unless they put sanitary sewers in Oak Hill Forest, which is very doubtful. It meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would concur with Terry's comments and would be voting in support of the minor variance application.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the application. So Terry, if you want to put the motion on the floor.
Okay, based on oral and written submissions tonight, I move that minor variance file A37 be approved.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Okay, the motion is carried, Michael. You receive written notice commission decision. Decision becomes final so long no appeals are received within 20 days of this notice. So thank you so much and take care.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, the next order of business.
I think
You're muted, Kara.
there we go.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to make a motion that we move. I guess you have to do the motion for the signatures.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
Okay,
do.
all
Yeah.
right, sorry. Yep, okay.
So I need a motion for the adoption meetings of October 22nd and November 19th.
So moved?
Seconder, okay. The other business, are we gonna deal with that with the general meeting that we're gonna have?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so our next hearing date is January 21st, 2021. And we'll go from there, and I'll ask for an adjournment at 6:20.